sport is a funny thing. World champions can be brought down to their knees by complete rank outsiders. A single moment, a perfect moment, can change the outcome of an entire match and sometimes the outcome of an entire tournament. And what you see on the field is often only half the story. So to go behind the scenes and get the other half of the story, I have with me two cricketers who've played an incredible role in the two world titles that India has won. Let me introduce first Mohinder Amarnath, Jimmy, better known to all of his fans, man of the match in the semi-final and the final of the 1983 World Cup, and man of the tournament really for India in that title-winning campaign. Jimmy, thanks a lot for coming here and talking to us. And of course, to his right is Gary Kirsten, the man behind the scenes when India won the 2011 World Cup at home for the second time. We're going to look back at these two titles today, go back memory lane. And I want to start with Jimmy first, you. Those were very different days for cricket and certainly for Indian cricket. Nobody gave you a chance when you went into the 1983 World Cup. You yourself mustn't have given yourself much chance. But how did this happen? How did India win in 1983?
No, we didn't plan anything, to be very honest. And even 83, we thought we were just going there to participate, nothing more than that.
Just making up the numbers.
Yeah, as we had done it in the earlier World Cup, 75, 79, we were there for a longer period of time, just to enjoy and see other teams playing over there. And 75, I remember it was the first World Cup and we were allowed to stay till the end. And we said, okay, fine, great, we'll get 1 month holidays, paid holidays.
Have a party?
Yeah, we were having a party. We didn't play much cricket and we were partying actually. And 79 was no different. And 83, even when the team left India and we all assembled in London in different way because some people were playing in the league. So there was no planning. We never thought of anything or how we're going to go about the World Cup. So we said, okay, fine, the World Cup has come, we'll just go and participate. Nothing more than that.
Nothing more than that.
Yeah.
Who was the joker of the pack and who was the life of the party in those days?
I think everybody, to be very honest.
You, Jimmy, I think.
No, I think the main guy was Sandeep Patil. I think he was a live wire of 1983 party. Like whenever the team would go anywhere, he would play jokes. And he kept the spirit very high of the Indian team. But we were, very good bunch of players over there. We got along very well. Nobody had problems, grudges against anybody. And even those who were not people, those who were mostly in the reserve, I think they were also great help.
And that can be a key, isn't it, Gary? Sometimes you're credited as a man who brought the Indian team together when you joined the team in 2007 and they played as a unit under you. In fact, he's called the best thing to happen to Indian cricket. And don't take my words for it. Those are the words of MS Dhoni himself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think from my side, it's Jimmy's spot on there. He felt he played in a team that they really got on well, that there was a strong kind of, feeling of family in many ways. And certainly when I joined the team, that was something that was important to me because that's when I had success as a player. And I just felt that it wasn't quite there when I joined the Indian team in 2008. There's some big individual brands within that team, and especially in the modern era of professional sport where, people are earning a lot of money and you've got to protect that brand, you've got to protect your own performances. And I don't think people were doing it consciously. I think just sometimes you kind of just make sure that you're looking after yourself. And I think we try to create a more family atmosphere and for people to then enjoy themselves and enjoy their cricket. I'll never forget Sachin at the time that I joined the team. I don't think he was enjoying his cricket that much. And it was going to be very important to me, one of the best cricketers in the world, that he was going to have the time of his life. And in those 3 years that I was with the team, he got 18 international hundreds and kind of almost in many ways resurrected the twilight period of his career and then ended off with his dream. So it was very special for me to be part of that group of people and to kind of, tweak a little bit the culture to make it as good as we could.
When you went into the World Cup, what did you think as a coach? With all of that talent, Sachin, Dhoni, Kohli was there. Did you feel, yes, this should be our World Cup?
There was a lot of expectation on the team and we could feel it. It was palpable within the country. And very similar to the experience that Jimmy had in 83, we try to kind of take the pressure off ourselves So we try to lower the expectation, and it was an analogy of some of the Indian players walking hand in hand with a lot of different Indian people. And we kind of took that on board a little bit to say, we don't have the burden of the Indian people on our shoulders, rather they're walking hand in hand with us to cross the line. So we actually never spoke about winning the World Cup. We spoke about just kind of every game, just getting over the line and just crossing the line. And we really just took it game by game, and we were very low-key in the round-robin stages. We had a lot of fun. The players went home and went to see their families, and, we had 7-8 days between games. So we really kept it low-key. We didn't practice that much, and then kind of got ourselves tuned in for the knockouts.
And you're the master of low-key, isn't it? In the time that you spent with the Indian team, you were only behind the scenes, the very quiet Guru Gary. I'll come to that in just a bit. But Jimmy, the very first match in the World Cup in 1983, you shocked the world champions. You beat West Indies in the round robin. And from there on, was there more belief, or was it considered even at that time a shock upset?
No, we had played against the West Indian in the West Indies earlier, and we had a tough series, and we had beaten them in one of those one-day international. But back of the mind, I think most of the people knew that West Indian definitely was a better team to us. But when we played the first game, there were no planning, as I said. We never used to plan anything. We would just have team meeting. I'm glad, actually, Gary was not there when we were there and playing, because half the guys wouldn't have been able to write anything in English, actually. And probably would have a lot of problems, planning. And because a lot of guys were from Punjab, and of course they could write, but they would discuss or say or express themselves more in Punjabis and Hindi. But again, I think it was like a team. We were together as a family for good 6 months before the World Cup on these 2 tough tours. And we never used to discuss. We used to just have a team meeting, just have a cup of tea, and the captain would announce the 12 or 11 who were going to play. We had the manager, Man Singh, and he would just do a very normal, informal talk and things like that. And then we would not discuss or plan. There were no A, B, C plans in those days. We would just say, okay, fine, this is the 11. We would meet in the morning and we would leave at this time, and that's it. And we would just go and play. And I think probably the good thing about that, what the captain, Kapil thought, that there were a lot of experienced guy over there, like Gavaskar was there, Kirmani was there, Vinsaka was around for a longer period of time. And there were a lot of youngsters like Kirti Azad, Shrikant himself, and they were very exciting players, all these guys. And so there was nothing to really tell them how to go about the game as such. He left it to the individual. Probably he trusted them, and then probably thought that they could do their job wonderfully. And I think everybody responded brilliantly. I think when we beat West Indies in the first game, and then we realized, we have done something, we have achieved something in English conditions. And they were supposed to be the favorite. They were supposed to be playing well against every team. I think that boosted the confidence of the team. It's not that we thought, okay, fine, we have beaten West Indies, we will lift the cup. Nothing. There was nothing like that. We were taking one game at a time.
So what do you think was the turning point then? Before you even got to the semi-finals, something must have dawned on the team that, okay, we're doing well. And what do you reckon was the turning point and changed the outlook of the team from, just making up the numbers to wanting to go and win the title?
I think definitely a game against Zimbabwe definitely was the key, because we were down, we were on the mat, and we had 5 wickets down for 17 runs, and we never expected Zimbabwe to do so well against us, because we never rated Zimbabwe. And situation had come, we were disgusted or disappointed with our performance, and we were playing at Dunsbridge Wells, and the dressing room was in the basement of that particular place. And it was dark and dungy over there. Whosoever got or never came up when we lost those wickets. We were so disappointed. And when Kapil started getting those runs, I think then everybody started, coming up and started watching the game. And probably I think that one game, Kapil, led from the front. I think he generated that kind of a confidence in the team that fine, okay, we were nowhere now. As a leader, I'm showing you the way. Probably I think that inning was fantastic. It's very sad that nobody has watched except the players, those who are there, or the spectators who were present over there. So I think that was a morale boost. It was a tonic probably the team needed at that time, and we never looked back.
And of course, you never looked back from there on. All round performances, especially in the semi final and final, that took India to the title. If we talk about that final, Kapil said famously that 183 might not be a winning total, but it's a fighting total. So he was very much the leader who can be credited, you say, with leading a team like the 1983 team to believing that no matter what the situation, you can win a match.
No, first thing, I think when we made it to the semis, we were very thrilled, very happy. And we never thought about the final at that time. But when we beat England in the semis, then we realized, okay, now we are in the finals. And here we have a chance.
Anything can happen.
Anything could happen on that day. And one thing we knew that West Indian was one team, although they were great names, great players, but they could crumble under pressure. That thing was definitely in the back of the mind of most of the players. And when we got off for 183, there were no planning actually. I think it was an extended break in those days, a lunch kind of a thing. And because we just chilled and relaxed, there were no pressure. Nobody really looked under pressure or worried about the situation at that time. It was absolutely easy, calm dressing room. People were doing their own thing.
Really? There was
no discussion. Nothing was discussed. Nobody was saying anything to anybody. Okay, we were not disappointed whatever had happened. Anyway, thought, okay, whatever has happened, but we have something on the board. And we would just go and just try our best. There was no planning. The captain didn't have a 20-minute talk to the team. Nothing like
no
anything.
pep-up talk.
No pep-up talk. Right through the World Cup, there was no pep-up talk at all, actually, in those days. And it was just like, okay, before going in, people just got ready, doing their own normal thing, like sitting in the corners, in their seats, and whether having a cup of tea or Shrikan smoking, in the balcony, going out and walking up and down the way he usually does. Balwinder Singh Sandhu doing his own things, adjusting his patka, and Kirmani, like would always take longer time to get ready than anybody else. He would do things very slowly, gently, and all those things. So it was a very relaxed kind of atmosphere. And once we walked onto the field, Kapil said, okay, guys, let's give our best, nothing more. Yeah.
Let's play the best that we can.
Yeah, that's it. I think probably at this level, I don't think you have to tell the players what they're supposed to do, because when you represent your country, you're good enough to know what the job is. And it's a professional world, and you're playing an international World Cup final, and you have reached with your performance, and you're good enough to give your best shot on that particular day. But I think whatever Indian cricket is today, I think the beginning of that started in 1983.
Oh, absolutely. 1983 World Cup win changed Indian cricket for forever. And I don't think Mohinder Amarnath ever ran as fast as he did after he took that final wicket, because he just wanted to get back into the pavilion before fans got a hold of you, isn't it?
Not only me, I think the entire team probably. I think even during training sessions, like we used to just jog around casually. Nobody used to do too many things in those days. Probably that particular day, that particular moment, I think they ran the fastest. Probably they would have beaten any great sprinter on that day.
Carl Lewis. But Gary, it's quite interesting that the two World Cup wins India has had, we've had two very strong leaders, isn't it? He's talked about Kapil and his innings that turned it around for the team. And MS Dhoni has been that kind of a leader, especially in the shorter format for India. Just tell us more about his, captaincy in the World Cup and the influence that he has had on the team.
No, I think he's been a remarkable leader. I mean, his record tells you so, what he's been able to achieve as a captain. I think he's a great leader by example. So he would be the one, and I guess Kapil Dev would be similar in that way. He would be the one that would stand up and be ready to kind of take on the most amount of pressure. To have self-belief like that, I think Virat Kohli has that at the moment.
Yeah.
To have that self-belief in your ability to do something at the highest level is special.
So by the end of your stint, did you become more Indian, or did the Indian players become more South African?
I love being in India. It was a special privilege to come here for 3 years, and the goodwill from the Indian people for me and my family was remarkable. For me, it was less about the kind of pinnacle of it, which was the World Cup. It was more about the 3-year journey. I think my wife saw more of India than I did. I was kind of airport, hotel, training ground, field, airport, hotel, training ground, field, whereas my wife and my kids kind of got around and saw a bit of India, and we what I really loved about my time here was all the villages we went to, and really got to see kind of outer India a little bit, which I would never have done as a player, really. So, I think the thing I really enjoyed about India is kind of each place was remarkably different,
Yeah.
and the goodwill of the people is remarkable. I mean, I'll never forget that as long as I live.
If we talk more about the 2011 campaign, when you look back, Gary, what is the one thing you feel made the biggest difference?
Well, I think there are two things. First of all, we had a great team. We had some very talented cricketers. And so what do you do with a great bunch of talented cricketers? And there are many stories of talented teams not performing well.
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't want this particular Indian team to be one of those statistics. And for us, I think the second component to that was we genuinely worked really hard as a bunch of individuals to operate for a higher purpose. And that higher purpose was the Indian badge and to play for the Indian people. And we spoke that language every day for kind of 18 months out before the World Cup.
Like what? Give us an example.
So every time we kind of reflected and debriefed on a game, we would take that game and we would say, this is the semi-final of the World Cup. Okay. This game that we're playing now and we're preparing for is the semi-final of the World Cup. And I think we took care in that space. We took real care in our performances. We never took one performance for granted. We never took anything. We didn't take each other for granted in many ways. But I think for me what really stood out was when I saw number 9, 10 and 11 batsmen really putting time into their batting because they weren't recognized for that.
Yeah.
And how many times we see a number 9, 10, 11 batsman hit the ball up in there and say, it's not my job to score the runs.
Did you have much success with Munaf Patel, though, as the number 11?
A lot of success with Ishant Sharma. In a test match, he won a test match for us in many ways with VVS Laxman at Mohali.
Yeah.
120 for 8, I don't know if you remember it. And
Yes, I do.
He batted for 40 balls, got 4 runs, I think. But those 40 balls allowed VVS Laxman to bat at the other end and go win the match for us. And that was testament of the fact that he was spending a lot of time practicing in the net. So they took a lot of pride in that space, and that really suggested to me that this team was turning, that individuals were prepared to work on a part of their game that they weren't recognized for. And I think that is always very special.
And who was your favorite pupil? Who was the one who absorbed the most and, came out and you saw changes after you spoke to him? Who was the best student in the Indian team?
Oh, it's difficult to say. I connected more with the batsmen because I was kind of the specialist batting coach, I suppose, in many ways. So I worked hard with all those batsmen. But I've always said, and I've said this publicly, that, the way Sachin practices and trains, he trains like he's an 18-year-old.
Yes.
Yet he was 20 years into his career. The way he engages people and tries to continue learning about his batting and tries to improve was remarkable. I've never seen someone have such a love affair with the game of cricket. But it would be unfair on the other players. I think they were all real kind of workers on their games, and they're professional athletes, and they took their cricket seriously. I enjoyed Harbhajan Singh. I enjoyed his competitiveness for the game. He got 200s against New Zealand in a test series while I was here, and he took massive pride in his batting. And to see him get those hundreds was kind of special. But I loved the competitiveness he brought to the team.
Virat Kohli was the young star, the budding star at that time in 2011, and he showed his brilliance even at that time. He showed why he is the star to watch out for. He's the successor to Sachin Tendulkar.
I remember watching him win the World Cup under 19.
Yes.
And where was that? Was that in Malaysia?
Yes, I think so.
He was in Malaysia, and he walked around and he had his shirt off and he's kind of waving his shirt around. I thought, gee, is this the new kind of star of India?
Yeah.
I'll never forget having that as a reference point and then working him for the first time in Sri Lanka, opening the batting. I think Sachin wasn't playing in that series. And that was the first conversation I had with him. I kind of said to him, Virat, is that going to be a sign of things to come? And he said, no, I'm going to tune it down a little bit because I thought that was a bit over the top. And it's been fantastic working with him. He's a player. There are very few players that have the self-belief that he has. I think he's got 20 international hundreds in 120-odd games.
Yeah.
He's got a conversion rate better than anyone else in the world. I think him and Hashim Amla are neck on neck.
Yeah.
I think he's the player that's won more games chasing than anyone else.
Yes,
Or
and
scored
more
runs.
centuries chasing than even Sachin Tendulkar in as many games.
This is a remarkable cricketer.
Yeah.
And he plays for India. So let's not count him out. These guys have massive self-belief, and he will be a key factor in this World Cup, I have no doubt.
Finally, what do you think is going to be the biggest challenge playing in Australia and New Zealand for all teams, but especially for India?
Well, we all know the conditions will play a massive role, and I think India are going to have to navigate the pace and the bounce, because that's certainly going to be a strategy of every team to play against them. And I don't think the ball's going to spin as much, so the spinners may be slightly less effective. But if they can navigate the pace and the bounce, and there's no reason why they can't, these are good professional players. So I'm sure they will prepare accordingly for that.
All right, Gary. Encouraging words from the former Indian coach. Most chance that anybody is really giving them, but Gary is showing faith in the Indian team. Gary, you're back in Mumbai. I hope it's bringing back memories for you, winning the 2011 World Cup with India. And with that memory, I hope the Indian boys will go and do very well in 2015 as well. Thanks a lot.
No problem. And I wish them well. I hope they come second to South Africa.